series is, of course, the Kaiju. And among those Kaiju, an elite few of them gets a special code. So, who are the strongest among them? Well, today, we'll be ranking all numbered Kaiju in the world of Kaiju number 8. And for anyone wondering, no, Kaiju number 8 is not placed at number 1. And you'll see why in a little bit. You see, every Kaiju is given a fortitude level, which is a way for the defense force to measure the creature's power and its potential threat to humanity. According to the fortitude level, Kaiju are then classified power-wise. Yoju are smaller Kaiju who accompany their Hanju. There are usually numerous Yoju to assist a Hanju. But what is a Hanju now? Well, this is the next category in terms of strength. They are usually the biggest and most powerful Kaiju, and the one who generates and guides all the other Yoju through their proliferative organs. Their fortitude level is usually above 6.0. A Hanju with a fortitude level of 6.4 would require an entire platoon of Defense Force soldiers to defeat it, and only a captain or vice captain could defeat one alone. Then we have the Dai Kaiju. It's a name given to particularly strong Kaiju, whose fortitude level exceeds the number 8.0. Having appeared ever since the Mireki era, these kinds of Kaiju are part of the strongest category, with their power not necessarily being linked to their size, since Kafka, who has a fortitude level of 9.8 in his Kaiju form, was indeed considered a Dai Kaiju. Due to their incredible power, Dai Kaiju can also be Hanju and guide their group of Yoju, like Kaiju number 10, for example. And among them, the strongest of the Dai Kaiju will then be given a number. As a rule of thumb, these Kaiju need to have a fortitude level of 9.0 or higher, but in some cases, they might be given a number even with a lower fortitude level if the situation deems it necessary, like Kaiju number 9, for example, that despite having a fortitude level of 8.5 at first, it was still given a number. So, with all this in mind, let's now officially begin the strongest Kaiju among the known numbered Kaiju. There are 15 numbered Kaiju, out of which, however, 3 of them, we got absolutely no mention on how they look, what powers they had, what fortitude level they had, or an image for them. These are Kaiju number 3, 5, and 7. And how do we know these Kaiju did indeed exist? Because we have confirmed Kaiju up to number 15, and the numbers were not given based on strength, but rather based on time they appeared. Meaning to reach number 8, for example, all previous numbers from 1 to 7 had to be occupied. Thus, Kaiju number 3, 5, and 7 did indeed exist. We just got no info on them. So with that part out of the way, at number 12, it's Kaiju number 15. You see, unlike other Kaiju, number 15 presented a skinny and female-looking humanoid body, with its most notable features being large brains attached to it, 3 on its head, and several around its waist. In its human disguise, the Kaiju looked extremely similar to Kikoru, with the only substantial difference between the two being black hair instead of Kikoru's blonde and occasionally red eyes with black sclera. Now when it comes to strength, hear this. As one of the identified Kaiju created by Kaiju number 9, Kaiju number 15 is an extremely powerful Kaiju with a fortitude level of 9.0. Plus, number 15 seems to be the worst opponent for characters with certain psychological traumas. For example, when fighting against Kikoru, it used its mental powers to work around Kikoru's strength and used her insecurities against her. Thus, it managed to almost overwhelm and defeat her. Number 15's most unique ability is affecting the psyche of its victims. By touching a target with a beam of energy, the Kaiju can connect to the victim's brain and thus manipulate it in different ways. During its psychogenic attacks, the victim stops moving and is captivated by the Kaiju's powers. By using telepathy, it can read the mind of its targets and pinpoint specific events or emotions, even digging into their subconscious, force them to recollect memories and traumas from their life, or even force the victim to see illusions. And even though these almost overwhelmed Kikoru, well, they almost overwhelmed her, since Kikoru eventually managed to come out on top. This Kaiju was capable of flight, and as someone would expect from a Kaiju of 9.0 fortitude, it possessed immense strength, allowing it to fight on par with Kikoru, even while the latter was wearing a numbers weapon. Not only that, but its speed was no joke either. It was literally seen evading and catching up to numbers weapon 4, the fastest one in the Defense Force arsenal. It could also regenerate, to the point where it could instantly heal its detached arm, but this was in terms of defense. How about offense? Well, number 15 attacks by releasing an extremely powerful and violent beam of energy from its mouth. Its attacks can scatter in different directions to take out various targets, or release a singular beam powerful enough to instantly wipe out an entire Defense Force platoon and destroy a building in just one blow. However, the most impressive ability it displayed was none other than shapeshifting. This Kaiju can morph parts of its body in order to turn them into weapons, assimilating nearby objects to transform its arm into a giant axe, for example. But the most dangerous aspect of its shapeshifting was, of course, the metamorphosis part. It can morph into a human and blend in with other other humans. Different from number 9, however, number 15 doesn't have to consume a human in order to take their appearance, but in order to take the form of someone, it needed to be prior modeled after that individual. Because of that, since it was initially modeled after just Kikoru, it could only transform into her. If this kaiju lived longer, similar to how it happened with number 9, if it kept adding characters into its database, it could become insanely more powerful. Remember, kaiju number 9 was one-shot at first by number 8, but then it kept becoming stronger as time passed. Similarly, this kaiju would be the same if it was allowed time to grow. Luckily though, this did not happen, and as a result, even though incredibly powerful, it's still placed at the bottom of our list. Number 11, Kaiju number 4. This kaiju was a large flying monster with a flat face, sporting 3 eyes and sharp teeth. As a kaiju, number 4 had multiple sets of wings on its back, allowing him to fly at immense speeds. Plus, given that its weapon form is considered the fastest numbers weapon in the Defense Force arsenal, it goes without saying that number 4 itself boasted remarkable speed while being a kaiju, even though we did not witness much of that in the manga. Maybe when it gets animated in the actual anime, we might see more of it. What we did see, however, in more detail was its numbered form. You see, at some point, Kaiju number 4 was faced and killed by the Defense Force, eventually turning it into Numbers Weapon 4, formerly used by 2nd Division Captain Hikari Shinomiya, and later by Kikoru Shinomiya. In this form, it allows the user to manifest wings, reminiscent of those of Kaiju number 4, from the 2 sets of repulsors on the shoulder blade, which propel energy to amplify movements exponentially. As a result of that, the user gains unparalleled levels of speed when wearing it, easily slaying kaiju faster than the human eye can follow. Number 10, Kaiju number 13. Out of all its siblings, number 13 looked the most like its parent Kaiju number 9. Its appearance was that of a very tall and pale humanoid kaiju with gray skin. It lacked eyes and a nose, but possessed a mouth with jagged teeth. Unlike some of its siblings, this kaiju seemed to be unable to speak and completely apathetic towards its surroundings, with its only instinct being defeating its enemies as fast as possible. The only sign of personality shown, however, was its competitive nature, seen when excited to fight Kaiju number 8 upon his appearance. It has an initial fortitude level of 9.0 and a subsequent level of 9.2 when powering up its body. It was powerful enough to easily face the 1st Division of the Defense Force without getting injured. However, Kaiju number 13 was not powerful enough to be a match to significantly stronger kaiju like Kaiju number 8. Like its parents and siblings, Kaiju number 13 possessed some degrees of shapeshifting, namely by running on the spot very quickly. It could stimulate its muscles to the point of drastically enlarging them. This allowed for immense speed, strength, and stamina. Number 9, Kaiju number 14. Okay, this one, not gonna lie, it probably looks the most creepy out of all the kaiju we've seen. It took the appearance of a jet black floating object with 4 pink human-like faces on its angles, with each of the faces sporting an eerie smile. Again, as one of the identified kaiju created by Kaiju number 9, Kaiju number 14 was an extremely powerful kaiju with a fortitude level of 9.0. Its energy beams and force fields were able to damage and shrug off Defense Force equipment with no effect whatsoever. It was capable of levitation, as it could freely move mid-air. It had, as we mentioned, the ability to fire energy attacks in the form of destructive beams of energy fired from each mouth on its head. But the most impressive abilities it displayed were these. You see, this was likely developed as a counter to Mina's sniping skills. Number 14 could quickly teleport between close locations, thus throwing off Mina's aim. Being a sniper that fights by locking onto someone's position, this became incredibly difficult for her to pinpoint its location all the time. As a bonus, if activated by an external force, number 14 can manifest a portal from its body, even when dead. And last but not least, it was able to surround itself with a force field durable enough to withstand fire from missiles and standard Defense Force rifles. Overall, when taking into account all of its abilities, this kaiju was incredibly difficult to subjugate. Number 8, Kaiju number 10. In the manga, Kaiju number 10 was a very tall and muscular humanoid kaiju with colored red skin and energy light flowing through the openings. It could also morph into a second, gigantic form as well. After being defeated by the 3rd Division, Kaiju number 10 had been reduced to a head with its spine connected to its damaged core. It was later weaponized into a numbers weapon, wielded by Vice Captain Hoshina. As a kaiju, it's a ruthless and intimidating beast, driven to the utmost to accomplish its missions. He also seems to be quite confident, being a proud leader of a pack of kaiju and challenging the strongest member of the Defense Force he could find. It seems to like fighting strong enemies, to the point of extending fights and taunting its rivals just for the sake of it. Its prideful personality brings him to never admit defeat, but rather a draw, even when almost at death point, by leading a group of wyvern-type kaiju it controlled and ordering them to merge into a massive Yoju bomb that would take out the entire area, including himself. Luckily, Kafka stopped that from happening, but nonetheless, this did display both its frightening capabilities as well as its ego of not admitting defeat. Its fight with Soshiro Hoshina managed to excite it so much that even after being defeated, it still felt linked to Soshiro and wished to be turned into a weapon for him to fight with him once more. It possessed a fortitude level of 8.3 when it first appeared, and 9.0 after using its full power and growing larger in size. Even after being defeated, number 10 still managed a fortitude level of 5.7, despite being reduced only to a mere head without a body. It had immense strength, to the point where it could destroy massive buildings with ease, and send Soshiro flying away through several blocks with just one punch. Its speed and reflexes were no joke either, as being able to fight toe-to-toe with Hoshina is, well, sure no easy task. It had massive durability, as it took and tanked multiple hits and slashes from Hoshina, and even after being nothing more than a head, it still kept being alive and fighting. It displayed impressive regeneration, as we explained, gigantification, some extended form of shape-shifting, where it could grow muscle parts and even eyes everywhere on its body. And last but not least, not only could it fire projectiles by flicking its fingers, with its shots being powerful enough to damage entire buildings, it could also control other weaker kaiju at will, using a sonar signal to guide them. Number 7, Kaiju number 2. Kaiju number 2 is an olive green kaiju with a round, stocky body covered in rocky plates, a long, rocky tail, and short, thick arms with 3 fingers each. According to Keiji Itami, Kaiju number 2 had an immense sense of pride, holding on to it until its very death. In 1972, Kaiju number 2 attacked and nearly destroyed Sapporo until it was defeated and killed by the defense force. Its corpse was then repurposed as the base for Isao Shinomiya's combat suit and gauntlets. Since being absorbed by Kaiju number 9, number 2 has now regained his original form, although fused with number 9's improved form, and it also became drastically shorter than before. Overall, it was a tremendously powerful and destructive monster, able to pose a threat to a whole city. Its power made its weaponized corpse so strong that only a man of Isao Shinomiya's caliber could handle its might. As a matter of fact, Isao, while using number 2's power, was able to easily and heavily injure Kafka Hibino in his kaiju form, gaining himself a power on par with that of a Daikaiju, despite being well past his prime. However, it could not withstand Kaiju number 8's full power when the mysterious larva took over Kafka's body and managed to defeat Isao, before Hibino stopped it by nearly destroying its own core. Its durability was so massive that its neutralization took literal days, if not weeks. It could use sonic attacks, but even more impressive, energy attacks. You see, it had the ability to release highly destructive energy, similar to electricity from its mouth. The suit that was forged from its corpse is also able to release super high levels of electromagnetic energy. As a numbers weapon, its wielder is able to produce a shield, fire sonic attacks, and even release massive amounts of energy to attack the enemy from afar. Number 6. Kaiju number 11. This kaiju had the shape of a stocky and muscular humanoid gray creature with a large whale-like head and a big shark-like fin on top. Befitting its fish physiology, this kaiju had gills on his torso as well. It had a fortitude level of 9.0, and its powers seemed to be hydrokinesis-based. It was a formidable foe for someone like Defense Force 1st Division Captain Gen Narumi, who, by the way, was also wielding weapons number 1, but more on that later. He had to use the electrical inputs from his opponent's brain to read and anticipate its movements in order to gain the upper hand. It had great strength, great durability, shape-shifting, to the extent like minor muscle enlargement when preparing to strike, but obviously, its major power source was its hydrokinetic abilities. It could control large bodies of water and use them for offensive purposes. Whether this was the sewage system or the ocean, it didn't matter. And now we reach the top 5. At number 5, Kaiju number 1. This kaiju was a massive, muscular Daikaiju with gray skin and multiple openings on its massive body, revealing numerous pink eyes. Being the first numbered kaiju to appear, well, I think it's quite clear that this beast was freakishly powerful. I mean, it was the very reason this numbering system came to be in the first place. So yeah, there's that. It had a fortitude level of over 9.0, and according to Isao Shinomiya, Kaiju number 1 was such a fearsome kaiju that its attacks were literally inescapable. As a kaiju, it had the fearsome ability of pseudo-foresight. Think of it as advanced observation hockey of One Piece, which allows people to see glimpses into the future. but in the Kaiju number 8 universe instead now. Kaiju number 1's eyesight allowed it to see through other living things and pinpoint their weak spots, as well as giving it enhanced vision overall. This allowed Kaiju number 1 to unleash lethal attacks to its opponent's weak spots. As a numbers weapon, it allowed Gen Narumi to develop an advanced form of foresight that even Kaiju number 1 itself never possessed. In addition to electrical signals, the weapon can also sense electrons moving, temperature, and terrain changes. Number 4, Kaiju number 12. You see, Kaiju number 12 looked almost identical to its prototype Kaiju number 10, but as you'd expect, this version was even more powerful. It was a large, light gray humanoid kaiju with a dark, scaled, muscular body and a long tail. It had a squared head very similar to number 10's, the main difference being 2 horns on the sides of its head. As far as fortitude level, it also had a 9.0. But the most important thing here, however, was that this kaiju was created specifically to combat and exterminate the 3rd Division's vice captain, Soshiro Hoshina. It possessed immense levels of superhuman physical strength, far superior to that of Kaiju number 10. It could move at immense speeds, far faster than the prototype number 10, and could also partially morph its appearance and body. It could turn its forearms and hands into extremely sharp and durable blades, in order to later detach and create its own sword. Not only that, but it was also a master swordsman. It displayed a high level of skill in fighting with swords, making extreme close quarters combat its specialty. I mean, its proficiency with blades was on par or even greater than Soshiro Hoshina's, the Defense Force's strongest close quarters combatant. Despite being at a disadvantage after Soshiro switched to a single blade form, number 12 soon began adapting to his fighting style, replicating the same technique, taking full advantage of its regenerating arm while shifting it into a sword. Which brings us to the next overpowered ability it showcased, adaptability. You see, number 12 had shown the ability to evolve and adapt mid-fight to better respond to its enemy's fighting style. Even when an enemy of Hoshina's caliber switched fighting technique, number 12 quickly adapted and countered with a newly adapted move of its own. Number 3, Kaiju number 6. You see, this kaiju was a massive dark scaled kaiju, shaped much like a dinosaur, possessing short arms and large legs. 10 years ago, Kaiju number 6 was at the center of various cataclysms which brought the death of 200 Defense Force officers and 3 captains, with 2nd Division Captain Hikari Shinomiya being the most notable victim. After its death, its corpse was converted into weaponry by the Defense Force. However, since there wasn't anybody compatible with the weapon, it was abandoned in cold storage, until it was later taken by Rino Ichikawa. This kaiju was so strong that it was literally dubbed as, quote, the King of Kaiju, and rightfully so if you ask me. It had a fortitude level of 9.6 when it was alive, and managed to guide an unparalleled cataclysm alongside multiple Hanju level kaiju. Such cataclysm is still recognized as one of the most catastrophic ever, with its attack unleashing a snowstorm in Odawara. Its name is still recognized as a symbol of despair to people. After being converted into a weapon, the Defense Force couldn't find anyone to match its power, and it was always seen as the most powerful and dangerous weapon in the Defense Force's arsenal. Even as a numbers weapon, its power was still strong enough to knock down Rino Ichikawa. But as we saw in the manga, Rino later managed to successfully wield this weapon, thus granting him an enormous power boost. The weapon grants Rino the ability to summon ice and freeze kaiju. So yeah, the main abilities of this kaiju were cryokinesis, and thus ice-related powers. Its mere presence on the battlefield would cause a giant snowstorm, befitting of its title as the King of Kaiju. Number 2, Kaiju number 8, or else known as Hibino Kafka. After an unknown kaiju entered his mouth, Kafka obtained the power to transform into a humanoid daikaiju, gaining immensely powerful abilities. He eventually learned to use this power on a more advanced level, allowing him to change specific parts of his body without a full transformation. Unfortunately, his kaiju nature remains, making it nearly impossible for Kafka to presently draw out beyond 1% of released power from the Defense Force combat suit he wears. But on the upside, Kafka's kaiju form had a formidable level of 9.8, so I'd say he really didn't need the combat suit anyway. As a matter of fact, this was the highest fortitude level seen so far in the entire series, making him one of the most powerful kaiju to ever exist. He can overpower other kaiju rather easily, even those as powerful as a base kaiju number 9, who had a fortitude level of 8.5 when it first appeared, without even tiring out. Not only that, but Kafka could also resist an onslaught from Vice Captain Hoshina and disarm him without even injuring him. It was later discovered that the longer Kafka stands in his kaiju form, the more his human body turns into a kaiju, with no possibility of returning to normal. Due to the parasitic kaiju, he has some unique connection that allows him to see the phantasms of ancient warriors. Near dead, Kafka strengthened this link further, resulting in him reliving the parasitic kaiju's memories, and could see the reason why he lost control was the result of the ancient kaiju hunter's 400-year-old grudge due to the Daikaiju of the Mireki era. After his human heart was turned into a kaiju core, and then he came to terms with his newest path, Kafka mutated into a new form, unleashing waveforms belonging to neither a human nor a kaiju. Like the Mireki Daikaiju, his fortitude level is, quote, unmeasurable when it comes to physical strength. Kafka could literally evaporate entire kaijus with a single punch, even creating shockwaves in the process. Incredible durability, immense speed and reflexes, seemingly unlimited energy, ability to sense other kaiju when out of control, even gigantification to an extent, and exceptionally high regenerative capabilities. When combined with his kaiju knowledge due to his time as a member of the kaiju disposal team, this gave him a further advantage when fighting against kaiju. Plus, after Hoshina begins instructing him in squadron-style combat technique, Kafka became even more powerful, capable of fighting against Kaiju number 9 on equal terms. But then again, why do we rank number 9 higher than Hibino? You'll see why in a little bit. Number 1, Kaiju number 9. Even though this kaiju was not originally the strongest, it did display a number of overpowered abilities that allowed it to not only constantly level up, but also gain new abilities as time passed. When it first appeared, it had a fortitude level of 8.5, thus why Kafka was able to one-shot it to the point where it barely managed to escape. According to Isao Shinomiya, number 9 operates like a virus. After absorbing Kaiju number 2's power, number 9 is said to be the newly crowned king of kaiju. And well, let's just say that this was not an understatement. It possessed immense physical strength, incredible speed, to the point where it was able to move fast enough for Reno's eyes to barely follow it, and could flee from dangerous scenes without being spotted in an instant. Its reflexes are incredibly fast too, allowing it to avoid bullets fired from an automatic rifle with ease, as if nothing happened. It had enormous durability and regeneration capabilities like no other, and not only could it heal itself from injuries to the point that it could even regrow its head after being decapitated, it could even resurrect previously fallen kaiju too. And hear this, it did not just bring them back, it made them even stronger than what they were before dying. Although, to be fair, there was a limit to how many kaiju it could resurrect, because it exhausts itself. Another major ability it possessed was that of shapeshifting. It can completely morph its appearance, giving it a whole different human form than its monstrous original form. It can also use its shapeshifting powers to hide and manifest its eyes, grow extra limbs at will, and even to mold a new powerful version of itself. Its most frequent offensive attack derives from that as well. By shooting chunks of its body from its index finger, the projectiles move fast enough to injure the likes of Kikuru and Reno before either of them could even realize what happened. But to be fair, these projectiles were not strong enough to significantly harm strong kaijus like Kafka, for example. Another aspect of its shapeshifting capabilities was that it could also take the appearance of beings it consumes, usually humans. It could also molt into a new, improved body, more muscular than the original, and even acquire the memories of the person consumed. This way, the kaiju kept getting smarter and smarter by collecting new info and knowledge from the people it devoured. After absorbing Isao Shinomiya, for example, Kaiju number 9 has full access to his memories. As such, he can use the squadron-style combat technique, which he has perfected, and which can be combined with the power gained from absorbing the weaponized Kaiju number 2. As such, this makes it possible to counter the same techniques used against him. And do you think that's all of his powers? Oh, we're just getting started. Kaiju number 9 can fuse its body with that of a new kaiju, and thus enter a new, powerful form. This power allows it to fuse both with simple Yoju monsters like the ant types, and even powerful Daikaiju like Kaiju number 2, even if the latter was turned into a weapon. It was soon revealed that Kaiju number 9 is an amalgamation of numerous kaiju and humans that were consumed and fused, having full access to their abilities. It can create duplicates of itself, which are as powerful as its original form. It refers to its duplicates as Beta and Gamma. Through its shapeshifting powers, Kaiju number 9 can manifest wings to freely fly as well. But hold on, because there's still more. Through unknown means, Kaiju number 9 can spawn other kaiju itself, able to create a kaiju as powerful as Kaiju number 10, which is even considered a prototype, and later on, even more powerful kaiju that we already explained in this video. It can move kaiju's corpses with its mind, using them as a barrage to block attacks or stall enemies. It can cut off radio frequencies and vital signs, causing people from the outside unable to enter or know their whereabouts. After fusing with Kaiju number 2, Kaiju number 9 can release highly destructive energy attacks in the form of lightning from its mouth, and even create a force field using, again, the power of Kaiju number 2. On top of being highly intelligent by the end of the series, it also became an expert in hand-to-hand combat. But why do we rank this kaiju higher than Kafka, you may ask? After all, in the end, it was defeated, right? Well, the answer to that is because during the final fight, multiple opponents needed to attack it at the same time in order to defeat it. Yeah, I guess Kafka did most of the job, but at the same time, he was not alone. And as it seemed, he was not going to be able to defeat Kaiju number 9 alone. Thus, Kafka is placed at number 2 and Kaiju number 9 at number 1. Click on this video next, where I'm creating the strongest character that